Hello, we are ready now to finish the Kelly Floyd tax return. As you've seen with Kelly, many of the issues Kelly faces are the exact issues that our families face. We have single parents with multiple children, perhaps family members who live with them, some who will qualify as dependents, some who will not. They have earned income. They may have taken money out of a retirement plan to make ends meet. They may have been unemployed part of the year with health insurance for only part of the year. We have issues of childcare that we'll be facing. All these issues that Kelly faces are typical of the clients that we will see every day. So this is a terrific return to understand thoroughly. So we've completed the main information sheet. We went through the 1040 and answered questions concerning income. And when we left off, we said that we were going to be looking at what kind of expenses that Kelly had. And that was section 4 of the uh, interview and intake form. And under expenses, Kelly only lists on line 9 that she had child independent care expenses, daycare. And we will find daycare expenses on page 2 of the 1040. And it is from that line that we can go ahead and link out. So if we look at line 49, credit for child independent care expenses, form 2441, from this line we can go ahead and link out to where it is that we will complete the information concerning Kelly's daycare costs. Now if we were looking at it for a new one, we could look there, but we're going to go ahead and look at an existing form, the 2441, that I have created. And from the information that was provided to you on page 83 of your test booklet, Kelly's children attended Stone's Child Care Center. And I have gone ahead and completed the information concerning Stone's. And Stone's provided an EIN versus a Social Security. If children attend a private care in-home care, many times it is a Social Security. In order to claim this child care expense, a Social Security number or an EIN must be provided. Often we'll have family members providing care for the client's children, and they don't want to report their Social Security number because that means they will have to pay income tax on those earnings. But without a Social Security number or an EIN, we really cannot prepare that return. If the client has somebody who absolutely refuses to give them that information, it is possible that on page 2 of the 2441, you can uh, create an explanation for a child care provider who would not give you the information about their Social Security EIN. And you need to have very detailed information so that the IRS can then pursue those people. But we're going to assume that all the clients will get that information and we will enter it in here. And we will then enter in the total amount paid. And this is right off that child care source document. And if we scroll down, we will see that TaxWise wants us to break out how much we paid for each child because there is a limit per child of $3,000, and so TaxWise wants us to enter the per child expense as well as the total expenses. Once that is done, we can go back to the 1040, page 2, and we will notice then that under the child care credit for child independent care expenses, there will be a credit that has been calculated by TaxWise based on how much was paid. That completes section 4 of the interview form. We can now look at section 5, life events. And the one thing that I want you to notice that while Kelly did not have a life event, line 1, HSA. The HSA exam is available in Lincoln Learn. If you'd like to take the HSA exam and be certified in HSA, if you'll notice it has HSA versus A. The A before all of these sentences stands for the advanced exam. The B stands for basic exam. And the HSA stands for the HSA. You must have passed that level of certification to deal with these tax issues. If you'd like to take the HSA exam, that can serve as your final project. Unfortunately, though, you must get it completed in the first 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks before we start doing taxes. Because the reason it will be valuable to the course is because you will be certified and you can prepare taxes for people who have a health savings account. So if you're interested in doing this as your final project, but completing it by the first 2 weeks, please let your graduate student or your instructor know. So let's go on to the final page of the interview form, and that is the Affordable Care Act and the health insurance information. And as we know, Kelly was unemployed for 2 months. So we're going to go ahead and look up above here, and we've got the 1040 ACA worksheet. Let's click on that. Now, had I not had this already populated, I'm going to head unclick and see what happens. You see a lot of red boxes. But we're going to have to determine with each client, did they have full coverage? Did they have no coverage? Had they purchased their coverage in the marketplace? And then we'll be looking at some premium tax credit information. If they did not have full coverage, did they qualify for an exemption? So we're going to first try to see, since Kelly did not have full coverage, she had 2 months of no coverage. Let's go ahead and click in the marketplace and click, put our cursor over that, and let's go ahead and do this Shift Alt F1, looking for some IRS codes. And if you look for Form 8965, that is going to give us the information, Form 8965, for the Affordable Care Act, to see if our clients qualify for exemption codes, and most of our clients will. So you would go through the list and see if any of those exemptions that your client had, a life situation, could qualify. Were the premiums more than 108% of their household income? There's if the citizens living abroad or non-citizens, households who were below the filing threshold, incarceration. There's just a number of exemptions. Please look these over. And the one that Kelly we're going to look at is short coverage gap. We know that she was unemployed for 2 months. Let's see if that will fit Kelly's family situation. It says you went without coverage for less than 3 consecutive months. Kelly had no health insurance for January and February. By March 1st, she was covered under her employer's plan. So yes, Kelly would qualify for an exemption under the short coverage gap and exemption code B. So that is good news. We can go ahead and put exempt for all Kelly, Maya, and Logan. They found an exemption against a penalty. And so since Brian was not on this return, he was not required to file a form. He is not on here. He had full coverage. We can go ahead and scroll down the form and see if there's anything that still needs to be filled out. And we can see that Kelly will owe no penalties based on her exemption and her short gap coverage. So let's go back now and go to the 1040, and let's make sure that Kelly was not assigned any penalties from the Affordable Care Act. And as we've scrolled down, we can see healthcare, individual responsibility. Kelly is being assessed no penalty. Also want you to notice the additional tax on IRAs. Remember, Kelly did not qualify for an exemption on her IRA. You can see that she did pay the 10% penalty on her IRA. So she was facing a penalty. So now that we've dealt with the Affordable Care Act, we have completed now the 13614 interview. We can go ahead and flip over to pages 82 and 83, and we can note that we filled out the W-2, the Unemployment Compensation 1099-G. We filled out the 1099-R, and we completed the child care documents. So now we are almost complete. The last forms that we need to look at, and these are green, but if we hadn't gone through the earned income credit form, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this off and show you that now, when this has not been completed correctly, the earned income tax credit form, it will appear red on the side. As you're finishing up your returns, you're going to look for any red forms because you know you're going to have to complete them. So let's go to back and let's take a look at what is on this document. So we're going to go through this anytime we've checked on the main information form that we're looking to see if any of our dependents qualify toward our earned income tax credit. And we're going to very carefully answer the questions. And so we have 3 qualifying children that we're seeing if they will qualify for the earned income tax credit. And so was the child under the age of 24 at the end of 2014 a student and younger than you? Well, that was true of both Maya and of Logan. It was also true, actually, of Brian. And Brian was also permanently disabled. If Brian were 24, we could have still clicked no and clicked yes that he were disabled and still had him qualify as a dependent. So then we could also look at the earned income credit worksheet. And in this sheet, you're going to want to go through these questions very, very carefully and answer them. Um, I'm going to go ahead and click some of these off so that you can see. It says, is the taxpayer's filing status married filing separately? No, hers was head of household. It had been yes, we would have stopped. We couldn't have taken the credit. But it was no. It says go to question 2. Does the taxpayer have a social security number that allows him to work? If they just have I-10s, we would go no. But since Kelly has a social security number, we will go yes. Is the taxpayer filing a form 255? Um, and we said no. Was the taxpayer or taxpayer spouse a non-resident alien? No on Kelly. So we're just going to want to think about these and answer them very carefully and go through them step by step. We'll also have to look at the questions concerning our children. Is either of the following true? The child is unmarried. Well, Maya is unmarried, Logan is unmarried, and Brian is unmarried. Did they live with us for over half a year? Well, yes, all 3 of them did. Did anybody else claim the child? Well, no, not that we know of. We go down, do each of these children or qualifying dependents have a social security number? Yes, they do. And then we will see that tax values will populate automatically with yeses, and those individuals will qualify toward the earned income tax credit. So we're going to want to take a lot of time on the Schedule EIC and the Schedule EIC worksheet to ensure it is filled out correctly. The last step that we want to do before we are finishing up our return is we're going to run a diagnostic to make sure that everything has been completed. If something has not been completed correctly, it will show up as an error and it will direct you where to go to fix that error. If it is completed correctly and there are no errors, then we are ready to create the e-file. You will always remember to create an e-file so that your graduate assistants can submit these to the IRS for e-filing. At the time that you have completed the return, we're going to go ahead and take one last look at it and just make sure that everything looks correct. We want to make sure that we have filled out down below here. There's a prep use form. It is a side form that is not necessarily used for e-filing, but you're going to put down your first name and last initial. Then if you're in quality review, you will also sign. We want to make that sure that we have asked these questions, any questions that the partner has set up. That will be one of the last things that we can look at. And finally, when that is all done, we can go ahead and close our return. When our return is closed, we want to make sure that we mark it in the correct stage. In the case, if you are in preparing, we want to make sure that it is ready for review. If a client has to come back and bring more info, we'll put it as need more info. If for some reason that client wants it paper filed versus e-filed, we want to put that down. If a client decides to leave and does not want us to file, we should put to be deleted for either your instructor or the graduate student to delete. And if it is complete and ready to be e-filed, you are in quality review, you're going to click complete. So then everybody will know that it is ready to go and is ready to be e-filed. So that concludes now Kelly Floyd. You should have completed 2 tax returns. In your next 2 tax returns, they will be done in the form of PowerPoints. It will give you another strategy, another way to see how to complete tax returns. This will help you through all 4 of your tax returns. I do want to show you one final thing before we end here. Manage return list. I will be able to, your graduate assistants will be able to go in and look to see if you have been practicing these returns. It is vital that you practice these before the first night. These returns will be the basis for you to take your IRS exam. They'll be the basis for you to have the software and tax knowledge to start completing returns by the third night. Practicing these over and over will make you feel confident and proficient in your tax preparation abilities. Thank you, and we will be talking to you soon.